Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. What I'll be doing today is add another episode to my upcoming series, my tribute series to Anthony Robbins, and the series is entitled All That I've Learned from Anthony Robbins Over the Years. This episode today is episode number 73, actually 74, and I stopped for a while during Christmas and New Year just to get a breather, just to catch up with life and to enjoy my family and friends. We had some friends visiting from Perth. I've got my sister-in-law visiting from Greece, and as you can understand, the household was absolutely full to the brim with fun, with laughter, with activity that is something that needs to be embraced, enjoyed and celebrated, because it doesn't happen every day of the year, and it doesn't happen every year throughout our lives, because we have days where we're up and very, very busy, and we have other days where things are just mundane and downright boring. So having people in our lives, even for a short period, allows time to stop, allows us to enjoy each other's company, to bend and stretch us, to test our generosity, to test our love, and to make us better versions of ourselves, to put it bluntly. Because when you're a guest and when you're looking after people, then you need to be generous with your time, with your energy, flexible with your rules, to be able to work in and around the needs of others who come into our lives. And one of the big lessons to come from the big man, Anthony Robbins, is that in our lives we need to meet others where they are rather than where you are. We just got a sunrise happening over here in the east, on the east coast. I was able to take my friend Athena for a walk from Bondi to Bronte and back, where she got to enjoy the east coast view. And it's only when you speak to somebody from Perth that you get to appreciate that they don't get to enjoy all that many east coast sunrises unless they're over here on the east coast of Australia. They have plenty of beautiful sunsets, but when it comes to sunrises, Sydney, I guess, is the place to see the sun rising over the ocean, over the magnificent, massive Pacific Ocean. So what I'm doing with Jim's 5am Club is I'm taking material that I've picked up over the years from various authors, including Tony Robbins. And I guess Tony Robbins for me is the absolute leader in his field when it comes to peak performance management, motivational speaking, and change management. And I'm taking all of the material that I've been able to absorb from Anthony Robbins, either through his seminars, UPW. I went to UPW back in 94, 95. I went to 2 seminars back then and had the time of my life. And this year, or should I say last year, 2023, I went to another UPW and took plenty of notes, 167 pages of notes to be exact. And I've also read a couple of his books, a couple of his initial books there, Awaken the Giant Within and Unlimited Power. And I've also listened intently to a few of his tape series entitled Power Talk and Power Talk 2. And I guess in between UPW 1, 2 and UPW 3 that I've just experienced, I've also been able to enjoy, embrace, celebrate and experience my life as a husband, a father, a grandfather, a child, a grandchild, and being able to take many of those lessons that I've picked up over the years based on the material that I've read, and being able to, I guess, prime myself and reformat myself and to see things a little bit differently to what they may have appeared had I not spent some time building up my capacity and capabilities. Because one of the key quotes that Anthony Robbins says to everybody is that there's nothing new in the world. Whatever you've thought of, whatever you've experienced, whatever you have done has most probably been done before by not 1 or 2, but millions, thousands of people. So we're not alone. And we need to understand that it's new to us. Whatever we're experiencing and we think is new is not all that new. And it's only when you become a grandparent and you've got grandchildren that you start to realise that each person who comes into the world, when they discover something for the first time, they think it's new and that they've discovered it for the very first time. It's only when you get to live a full lifetime that you get to appreciate and realise that nothing much is all that new. It's just new to you or new to them, new to the person who has discovered it for the first time. And you just say to yourself, how many other things are they going to discover in their life and think that they're discovering it for the first time, only to realise over the years when they have children and grandchildren that it's not new, it's just new to them. And Anthony Robbins says that life, and this is really profound and this is really powerful, so I want to spend a little bit of time talking about this and exploring this a little bit more and a little bit better. He says that what you see in life is a reflection of who you are as a person. What you experience in life is a reflection of who you are as a person. Everything that happens in your life is basically a reflection of who you are. So at the end of the day, all we are reflections, or all that happens in our world is a reflection of who we are. And I've also learned over the years the power of understanding how the reticular activating system works. And for those who are not versed in the RAS, the reticular activating system is simply a filter which sits in our head, in our brain, and it acts as the filter between the subconscious and the conscious. And the basic idea is that everything that comes into our world via our five senses, touch, smell, hearing, feeling, tasting, all of those sensory experiences that we experience throughout the day, throughout the moment, throughout the life, everything that comes into our range, into our radar, gets recorded, fully recorded in Technicolor, in sound, in the finest quality. Everything gets decoded and coded into our subconscious mind. The sunrise, the crashing of the waves, the gentle breeze that is just running past me now that I speak, now that I have an opportunity to focus on the here and now, the pain in my left bum cheek sitting on this rock here, the sweat on my lower back having walked up Mount Tomaree, the sound of that cicada just going past. There are just so many things being taken in to our subconscious that if all of that material, those trillions and trillions and trillions of bytes, sound bytes, vision bytes, feeling bytes, if all of that got taken in to our body and then allowed to be unfiltered and bubble up to the surface of our minds, the chatter, the noise would be deafening. So much so that you'd go absolutely crazy. And dare I say, a lot of people who suffer schizophrenia, mental and other mental health issues, there's a whole myriad of mental health issues. And mind you, I'm not suggesting that only some people have mental health issues. I remember years ago going to a seminar when I was working at Optus, and one of the leaders of a seminar back then said that basically everybody has mental health issues in their lives, but the mental health issues are suffered and dealt with in varying degrees. And you've got a spectrum of mental health issues extending from stuff as bad as schizophrenia and all of those other really debilitating and dangerous mental health episodes and expressions, to very, very mild things that are insignificant, to say the least, but enough to say that everybody throughout their lives will experience mental health challenges that need to be dealt with. And what I'm suggesting here, not being a doctor, not being a professor, not being a person of authority, that many of the mental health issues that abound could be an expression in terms of how the reticular activating system is working, is activated, or is not working in certain individuals, so that the filter that is supposed to filter out distractions and noises and certain things that happen in our world is not working properly, so that the sensory receptions that we're receiving may be overwhelming and overpowering and causing distraction and grief to the individuals. But what we're saying really is that the whole purpose of the reticular activating system is to block out things that are not important at the time. And for that reason, sometimes when we sleep at night, we may have some dreams. We may have some technicolor and very, very vivid dreams, which are quite amazing. And that in itself is an example of how the power of the subconscious, where we're able to create and recreate events which are not real, because our dreams aren't of things that have happened in many cases, but things that have been recreated in our mind's eye, things that are surreal and not very, very real, but are made to feel pretty real. So the human brain, the human mind, is quite special, to say the least, and it is complex, but at the same time things can go wrong, because as many of the speakers, motivational speakers say, Anthony Robbins says the same thing, that the human brain is both brilliant and quite stupid at the same time, because the human brain can't tell the difference between something that is vividly imagined and something that is real. And this is where we can take advantage of the knowledge that we have of the human brain, that we can program and reprogram and unprogram things that are happening in our life that are limiting, that are not productive. So it's up to each and every one of us to examine our lives and to take into consideration what is happening, and to know that the human brain, as we mentioned before, is both brilliant and self-destructive if left on its own. So what we need to do is we need to be conscious. We need to take charge of what is happening in our heads, and not to spend too much time in our heads, of course, but to be aware of what is going on, and to clean it up wherever possible, knowing that the human brain can add, delete and distort on command. Add, delete and distort on demand. So you can use that to your advantage, or you can also use it to your disadvantage. So once again, it's important to understand the power of the brain, but it's also important to understand and appreciate the power that we have in our hands to reprogram and to fix our brain Because as Anthony Robbins alluded to and said before, life isn't as it is. Life is as you are. So we need to refine, we need to fix where possible ourselves so that we're getting the best outcomes in our lives, in our lifetime. And our lifetime could be 70, it could be 100 plus, or it could be 30 or less. Only God knows how long each of us are going to live. Even that I'm perched up here on the edge of a cliff, it's God's will as to whether or not I'm able to clamber up, back up to the top and get out of danger's way. But as we said before, the human mind, the human brain is both complex and quite remarkable in the fact that it can add, delete and distort things that are going on. And what we're seeing, what we're recording, what we're interpreting is our version of reality, knowing very well that each and every one of us are going to live a different past. Each and every one of us are going to live a different now, a different here and now, and each and every one of us are going to live a completely different future. Even if you're an identical twin, even if you're a Siamese twin fused at the hips, we're all going to be experiencing different slithers of reality. And it's those slithers of reality that the brain is able to attach meaning to, is able to colour, is able to add weighting, and all of those things are going to create our particular version of meaning and contribute to our worldview of our life. So we need to be careful with what we overly focus on. We need to be careful about what we obsess over. We need to be careful with the meaning we attach to things that are going on in our lives, because ultimately that is going to be our experience. So as Anthony Robbins says, we need to work on ourselves, because at the end of the day, who we are is going to determine what we experience every moment throughout our lives. And this is a really, really, really powerful notion. Who you are is going to determine the life that you're going to experience and the life that you're going to live. I remember a few years ago, my friend Billy Maywis, who I went to school with and I've worked with in a couple of organisations, sent me an article, and I forget who the author was, but the article talked about the fact that we end up expressing who we are, and they use an interesting analogy, and the analogy is a couple of pieces of fruit. And the author in that article says that if you take an orange and cut it in half and squeeze it, from the orange you'll get orange juice. And he said that if you take a lemon and squeeze a lemon, what you will get from that exercise is lemon juice. And we all know that there's a significant difference between orange juice and lemon juice. Both are beautiful in their own ways, but one is sweet and one is sour. And similarly, the author of this article, and Anthony Robbins alludes to, he says that similarly people, when they are squeezed by life, and we are all going to be squeezed at different times with different events, when life applies the Bunsen burner to our butts, when life challenges us through circumstance, what happens there is that squeezing is God squeezing us in order to see and test our faith, in order to see and test what we're made of. And some people, when they're squeezed, will emanate and ooze love, caring, compassion, and all of the virtues. And yet others, when you squeeze them, will just put forth venom, pain, suffering, toxicity. And it's not because of the situation, it's because of who they ultimately are. And this is a very, very powerful lesson. And this may go down as being one of my strongest and one of my most effective vlogs on Jim's 5 AM Club on this most beautiful morning where the sunrise is spectacular. I didn't quite think it was going to turn out to be this beautiful, given the amount of cloud cover this morning. But as you can see, the sun is more powerful than the clouds, and the sun is able to burn off the clouds, and the sun is able to be brighter than the cloud cover could ever possibly hope to be. Fair enough, there are some days where the cloud cover is really, really thick and hard for the sun to burn through. But usually up here at Nelson Bay, my experience has been over the years that the sun has been and will continue to be strong enough to burn off the cloud on the horizon there, so that it can fully express that beautiful sunrise, and to show to us once again that there is hope in the world. There is certainty in our world. The sun will continue to rise. The sun will continue to burn off the clouds. The sun will continue to generate light for all of us to see and to experience and to enjoy the gifts of creation. But once again, the big man Anthony Robbins reminds us with a call to action that we need to continually analyze, we need to continually reflect, we need to continually look at what we're doing, what we're thinking, how we're seeing things, because things aren't as we think they are. Everything that we see is a figment of our imagination, so it's up to us to make the most and to ask the right questions so that we can see what is there, to peel back the scales that are blinding our eyes to open up our minds, open up our hearts, so that we can see things in a godly way rather than a way that may be manipulated by the other one, by the demons, by Satan. Because as Anthony Robbins says, what you focus on is your reality. Who you are is going to determine what you're going to see in life. If you are a pessimist, your life basically is going to be shit. If you're an optimist, we're not suggesting that your life is going to be brilliant, but you're certainly going to be open up to seeing the good things in the people around you, the good things in life, and to be able to see and experience and feel the sunrises that invariably come and go each and every day, each and every moment in our exchange, in our transactions with people around us. So give yourself a go, give yourself an opportunity to express and to feel and to receive life at its fullest, at its best, because God wants each and every one of us to experience His glory in all its glory, and not to have our heart hardened, not to have our eyes covered in scales, but to be able to see what is there to see, to be able to hear what is there to hear, and to be able to use our gifts, because God has created all man, all women, all children, all people with an inventory of gifts, and He's given the gifts to us in various proportions, and those gifts are part of His gifts. They're part of His virtues. All of the virtues have been distributed by God in various weights and measures to different people, so that they can take those gifts and use those gifts to serve God with all their heart, mind and soul, to worship God with all their heart, mind and soul, to love themselves, and of course to love others, to love their neighbours as they love themselves. And we're going to be tested from time to time. Those gifts are going to ebb and flow, and we need to try and minimise our selfishness. We need to try and minimise the waste of time that we may experience throughout our lives, and to do the things that are God pleasing, and to try and build those gifts that have been given to us in various proportions by God, so that we can have shared moments with our friends, our family, and even with strangers, and to be able to see God, the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son and the Holy Spirit in everything we do, in everything we see, in every person we come across, and to know that life is all about connection, life is all about contribution, life is all about shared moments where we can share a sunrise with our loved ones, we can share the sounds of the crashing ocean with our families, with our friends, and to enjoy all of creation, and to know that God created everything for our enjoyment. And so much so did God love His people, So much so that God, as an expression of love, created everything for us in colour, in variety, in beauty, so that we could experience it, we could express ourselves in it, we could see it, feel it, and enjoy it. That God himself became man in Jesus Christ to come and dwell with us, to come and live with us, and to come and enjoy creation with us, and to welcome each and every one of us to be one with Jesus, so that we can continue the relationship for eternity, where we can be one and experience the beauty of God for eternity. So once again, the call to action, the wake-up call for each and every one of us is to understand that what we're experiencing in life isn't all that real. It's real to us, but what we're experiencing is not what's happening, because there's lots of things happening at the same time, concurrently. What we're experiencing is who we are. And as I alluded to before, there are two types of people in the world. And Anthony Robbins talks about this extensively, or he talked about it extensively back in the mid-90s when I went and saw him at UPW. And he said there are two types of people in the world. There are matches and there are mismatches. And the mismatches will look at everything and see what's different. They'll look at these trees which have dried up here and notice, you know, the decay. They'll notice the things that are negative. They'll notice the things that are not working. They tend to be pessimists. They tend to see problems where other people see solutions, opportunity and beauty. And Anthony Robbins says that there are other people as well. There are people who are called matches. And what they do is they look at things and identify goodness. They identify connection. They identify things that have a common thread between two things that may appear different, and they're able to create meaning. And it's harder to be a matcher than a mismatcher. Anthony Robbins says it's easy to be a mismatcher. It's easy to be a pessimist. What is really hard is to try and look for the good in people, the good in the world, and to look for solutions. Because for some people, just finding and identifying problems is a survival mechanism for them to repel them from doing things, from creating relationships with people. And we need to be cognizant, we need to understand that we've got these things working against us continuously throughout time, and it's up to us to make the most of our environment and to know that at the end of the day we end up becoming a product of our environment. Nobody is born this way. Don't listen to that sort of stuff. Nobody's born to be an adulterer. Nobody's born to be a murderer. Nobody's born to to cause grief in the world. But these things come about because the virtues that we've been born with are displaced with passions. They're displaced with selfishness. So what we need to do is we need to work on ourselves, knowing that we're all work in progress, that we lose our path, we lose our way, and from time to time we need to get back on the path so that we can be an expression of who we were meant to be and to be ambassadors and to make our parents proud, our family members proud, and to do all we can to be the very, very best version that we can. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5am Club, where I've delivered episode number 74 of all that I've learned from Anthony Robbins over the years. And it is so comforting sitting up here with this magnificent view, hearing the birds chirp away, hearing people in the distance talking, watching people meander up the beach there. And that beach now once again is empty, not a single soul down there on the Zenith Beach. And a few months ago I was up here and I saw a shark actually swim up the beach just to the left of those breakers, and he was down here for a little while. He looked like he was a white pointer. He looked quite massive, given that I could see him from 400 or 500 meters away. He must have been pretty big. But once again, these waters are full of sharks, and it doesn't worry us because we need to share this environment, God's creation, with all of his creation, and make the most of it, as we say, and not to worry about the potential threats, because we all know that all of those things that scare us, all of those things that worry us, all those fears that we have, the fears, the uncertainty and doubts, all of those things, the majority of those things, the vast majority of those things are irrational and won't ever materialize apart from materializing in our mind. So once again, we need to use our minds productively. We need to have empowering conversations with ourselves, with our friends and our families, and we need to use the tools that we've got available to us to get the most out of what we're seeing, what we're doing, what we're hearing, what we're feeling, what we're smelling, what we're tasting, and to use our senses to engage us with our outside world, but to also be mindful of putting the right meaning on those expressions and on those experiences, so that we can learn and that we can feel the love and we can express the love to others, and as I mentioned before, to enjoy the shared experiences that God makes available to each and every one of us and to the groups of people that we come to live our lives with. Anyway, take care everybody. Yassas. It's Jim here from Jim's 5am Club, signing off on episode 74 of all I've learned from Anthony Robbins over the years. And I look forward to coming to you again from a different place with a different message of empowerment, where we can live, learn and pass it on, and that we can take all of these things and add them to our inventory of skills, our inventory of life hacks, and to take these patterns and to know that whilst they may not be relevant and useful right here, right now, that one day we will be able to use them when the opportunity arises. Yassas, take care, Happy New Year, and I can't wait to continue and bring to you the 365 vlogs that I plan. In fact, it's going to be 366, because this year is a leap year, and there are 366 days. So I've changed my goal from 365 videos to 366, and we'll see how we go. It's not easy, but it's a lot of fun. Yasas, bye for now.